I need to write this down because I feel like I'm losing my mind, and putting it somewhere outside of my head might help. Dane and I have been together for 4 years. We're the kind of couple that finishes each other's sentences, that has a whole private language of inside jokes and shorthand. I know him better than I know anyone. I say that because I need you to understand that when I tell you something is wrong with him, I'm not being paranoid. I know this man. We got back from a section hike on the Appalachian Trail 11 days ago. We did about 200 miles over 3 weeks, starting in Virginia. It was Dane's idea. He'd always wanted to do a long stretch, and I had never done anything longer than a weekend trip. I was nervous. He was so excited he could barely sleep the week before we left. The first 2 weeks were incredible. Hard, but incredible. We fell into a rhythm. We'd hike until late afternoon, set up camp, cook whatever dehydrated thing we'd packed, and lie on top of our sleeping bags talking until one of us fell asleep mid-sentence. I felt closer to him out there than I ever had. No phones, no obligations, just the two of us and the mountain. It was the 3rd week when things started to feel off. I don't know how to explain it, except to say that the woods changed. Not visibly. Everything looked the same trail, the same trees. But the quality of the air felt different, thicker somehow. Like the atmosphere had shifted by a degree you couldn't measure, but could feel in your chest. Dane felt it too. He got quieter. He'd always been the one pointing things out. Look at that ridge, look at that bird. But he stopped. He just hiked, eyes forward, jaw set. On the 4th night of that week, I woke up in the middle of the night, and he wasn't in the tent. I found him standing about 20 feet away at the tree line, just standing there looking into the dark. I called his name, and he turned around so fast it startled me. He looked, I don't know, not scared exactly, more like he'd been caught doing something. He said he'd needed to use the bathroom. We went back to the tent. He didn't sleep after that. I could feel him lying awake next to me all night. We finished the hike 2 days later and drove home. I thought once we were back in our apartment with our things and our routines, he'd return to himself. He hasn't. He flinches when I touch him. Not every time, but enough that I've started hesitating before I reach for him. Last week I came up behind him while he was doing dishes and put my hand on his shoulder, and he made a sound. Not a word, just a sound, and stepped away from me. He apologized immediately, said he was jumpy lately and blamed it on bad sleep. He's not sleeping. I hear him up at all hours. But when I get up to check on him, he always comes back to bed right away, says he's fine, and lies there stiff as a board until I fall asleep. He started locking the bedroom door at night. We share a bedroom. We share a bed. For the past 6 days, I've been waking up on the couch with no memory of getting there, and the bedroom door locked from the inside, and Dane on the other side of it, claiming he has no idea how I ended up in the living room. He says I must be sleepwalking. He says it gently, the way you say things to someone you're frightened of. I asked him last night to please tell me what was wrong. I sat across from him at the kitchen table, and I asked him to look me in the eye and tell me what I had done. He looked at me for a long time. His jaw worked. I watched him decide something. He said, "You haven't done anything. I've just been in my head since the trail. I'm sorry." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. He let go after less than a second. I went to the bathroom after dinner and stood at the sink for a long time. I look at myself in the mirror. Normal. Tired. A little thinner than before the hike, but normal. I turned the faucet on and splashed water on my face. When I looked up, I was smiling. I hadn't smiled. I wasn't smiling.
but my reflection was just for a second, just long enough for me to see it wearing an expression I hadn't put there. Wide and still and patient. Then it was just my face again. I told myself it was the lighting, the water in my eyes. But I've been thinking about the third week on the trail, how the air changed, how I have almost no clear memories from those last 2 days of hiking. Just flashes, a strange taste in my mouth, a sound like something large moving parallel to the trail, just past where the trees got thick. Waking up outside the tent once with dirt under my fingernails, and no explanation. I've been thinking about how Dane stood at the tree line that night, how he looked when he turned around, the sound he made when I touched his shoulder. I've been thinking about the mirror. I've been telling myself I need to ask him what he saw on that trail.
But there's another part of me, quiet, patient underneath, that doesn't want him to answer. That part doesn't want him to say it out loud. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I should be scared of what's happening to Dane or scared of something else entirely. I just know that last night I dreamed about the woods, the smell of them, the dark. And when I woke up, I was hungry in a way I've never been before, a way I don't have words for. I don't know how to end this post because I don't know what I'm even asking. I guess I just needed someone else to know. Originally, I'm from West Virginia. I moved around between the Appalachian and the Midwest as a kid. Between the ages of 10 to 13, I lived in rural Kentucky, in the foothills of one of the oldest mountain ranges on the planet. I lived with my dad and my Grams. We lived in what we call a holler. Think of it like a cul-de-sac in between a set of foothills. We lived in the middle of the neighborhood with nothing but family on both sides. No one lived across from us or behind us because of the foothills. When I moved in, my Grams had some rules I had to follow. At the time, I chalked them up to hillbilly stranger danger. There were things like, don't mess around with the wild animals, don't go out into the woods alone. Then they got a little weird. Don't whistle. If you hear your name, don't answer. And don't go to it. And if you see someone in the woods you might know, no, you didn't. And just come home. This experience happened in August when I was 11. My dad and I had a mowed path through the tall grass and berry bushes to the left of the double wide we lived in. We camped out there a lot because it was close enough for us to check on my Grams. Now, when you're in the woods, things are louder than you think. You have animal life, bugs chattering, wind through the trees, and grass. There was a stream that ran along the road, which you could easily hear. That night, we added the campfire to that list. My dad decided to go back up to the house, about a quarter mile away, to get more beer and to check on Grams. Before he left, he told me not to mess with the fire. After a few minutes of watching the fire, things grew quiet, like real quiet. The wind had all but stopped. Bug and animal sounds were all gone, and the stream sounded like it was miles away. I was getting uncomfortable, even though I've been left at the campground before like this. Then I started to smell and taste it. It was in the back of my throat out of nowhere, this awful metal tang. After a few more moments of dread, my dad came back. He was mad right away, said he could smell burning metal coming up the trail. He accused me of tossing beer cans in the fire. I told him that I didn't, and even pointed to the fire to prove it. He said there was a storm coming in, and we needed to get back home, and he let it go. We left the tent and started our way back.
Now, the very cool but very weird thing about lightning in woods this dense is that when the lightning hits, it lights up everything like the middle of the day. Well, up until the front of the trees. After the first set of trees, it's pitch black. There are no street lights, and unless you have lights on your property, it's completely black. So it's pitch black, lightly raining, and other than the dim lights from the house windows, there's nothing. I'm eating watermelon, as one does in August in the mountains, when the first clap of lightning hits. Everything is as bright as it can be. After the second pass, it's black as pitch aging. The next clap of lightning comes, and that's when I kind of see it. On the porch, past the yard, over the stream, past the road, and the ditches on either side, just past the first line of trees, I could see the silhouette of it. Then it goes dark. This is also when I can't start to taste that same awful, burning metal. I'm not really sure what I saw, so I just kind of stay still. It's a few moments before the lightning hits aging. The figure is now closer, standing side by side to the trees. Then it's back, aging. I'm standing now, not sure what to do. It's been 20 years to this day, and I've tried, but I've never fully been able to describe what I saw. This thing's head wasn't proportioned to its body. The arms were too long, and the torso didn't fit right. It was as if you asked a blind person to draw what a person looked like. It just didn't look correct. Once the lightning hit aging, the thing is standing in the middle of the road. Not wanting to see this thing get any closer, I go inside. My Grams is doing dishes and asks why I'm inside. I tell her I think I saw something. She almost immediately gets my dad on his feet, telling him to shut and lock all the windows and doors. My dad, vaguely drunk, obeys. That night I sleep with her. The next day, we discover the tent door is torn off. It didn't look like an animal. Nothing was cut or shredded, but it looked like someone had taken it apart. My uncle, who lived a mile or so up, had all 8 chickens killed. Heads gone, no blood. The next few weeks, all the kids had to wait for the bus with an adult. My dad had to be late for work for almost 3 weeks. Anytime I tried to talk about it, I just had the subject change. I just figured I was a kid, and it wasn't important or real. It wasn't until years later I finally understood.
I was in my early 20s, and some cousins were in town for Halloween. As I was telling this story, my aunt got irate with me, saying, "Don't you tell them that. Don't you put that evil on them." After, I couldn't help but think back on all the times I tried to talk about it, and how I was shunned. My kid's mind didn't realize it wasn't as simple as a subject change, but then actively shushed me. Once I started dipping my toes in Reddit, I realized there was a name for this fucking thing. The same name my auntie had called it that day at the party, and other people have seen it. The Goat Man. What bothers me the most is that, to this day, I couldn't describe any feature, nor have I ever tasted that awful burning metal taste. So friends, if you ever find yourself in the foothills of Kentucky, please remember my Grams rules. I've been at App State since the fall of 2023. I transferred from my local community college to save some money. I really did not have much time for a job in my first semester. My friends recommended me to try out DoorDash as a way to make quick and easy money. Not much, but a quick paycheck. I loved the sound of that. For the last couple of months of the semester, I DoorDashed and beeped, and I made good money too, especially for a college kid. As the winter set in, the pay got even better. I soon found out why. I am from the eastern parts of North Carolina, near the coast. I have never really been used to the snow before. Coming up to App State was already a huge culture shock. Not only did I have to get used to that, but also the extreme winter weather. In my hometown, whenever we get rumors of a half-inch of snow, people go crazy. Up at App, we get news of 7 inches and no one bats an eye. One night in January, we had a huge snowstorm coming in. Unfortunately, while I was door dashing, I was in serious need of money for the semester, having spent much of my last paycheck on gas to get back to App after winter break. Stupidly, I took this DoorDash, which was all the way out in Todd. Todd, for those who don't know, is on the north side of Boone, very beautiful countryside, but horrible roads once you get to the deeper back roads. By this point, it had already started snowing. I was halfway to the delivery location when the snow got worse. I told myself I had already picked up the food and was almost there, so I might as well go deliver. Stupidest decision. This is where things get weird. The road to the place was up a steep slope. Fortunately, the snow hadn't completely covered the road leading up, so I decided to go for it. I made it up quickly, no problem. I then realized I lost service. I followed my GPS to the place, searching for it for 10 minutes when I finally found it. By then it was snowing really hard, and the roads were covered in snow. I was in a redneck neighborhood. Generally, I have no problem with rednecks, but when it's late at night and it's just me, I usually keep my guard up. The guy I was supposed to deliver to stood in the yard under the amber streetlight. I stayed in my truck, handing him the food through the window. We locked eyes. Something was off about this guy, and I wasn't going to be the one to find out what. He politely said thanks, and with that, I drove off. I refused to turn around in his driveway, so I kept going. Little did I know that this was where the trouble would get worse. As I drove, the road went downhill, and I figured it would take me back to town, but it turned into a gravel road with ice and snow covering most of it. I hit the brakes and tried to reverse. No avail. I slid. Fortunately, I was able to stop. I made a 6-point turn on that narrow road. For reference, I drive an F250. As I made the turn, something popped up in my peripherals. I felt a sense of unease. I looked out my window into the snowy woods, but there was nothing. As I began to drive, I heard a loud yell from outside. The sound was horrifying. I could hear it over the wind and snow. I looked out my window once more to see a head peeping from behind a tree. I could barely make it out, but it was the man I delivered the food to. He started running towards me. I panicked and slammed my foot on the accelerator with 4WD on. The man was malformed. His body looked nothing like what it did when I gave him his food. His body looked like a distorted creature from the movie The Thing. I was fortunate to make it out. I got back to my dorm safely. I might have shit my pants. I was thankful to be in my horrible college dorm bed. For what it was worth, it was better than being stuck in the ice on an unknown road for the entire night with whatever that thing was. I did some digging into local folklore and legends. I am not a believer in ghosts or campfire stories. I think they're good for spooking children, but not someone like me. It wouldn't make sense. The guy was a psycho, sure. The inhuman screech, the strange running pattern. Still, it doesn't cover the disfigurement he had when I saw him. Also, a quick note, I don't do drugs, smoke, or even drink. Weird for a college student, I know. The closest thing I found on the internet was a skinwalker. As stupid as that sounds, I have no other explanation for this phenomenon.
There are plenty of YouTube videos about skinwalkers. If you can find anything else that resembles this in local lore or stories, please let me know. All I'll say is, I lived to tell the story. Definitely a story I will tell my kids one day at a campfire. Be careful door dashing. The people here are weird.